Hi, Divo. Welcome to Brazilian groups and the other ones, maybe South American too. When you became more interested in the movement and the fascia, and in which way you discovered the pelvic floor could be a best or could be a good information for the health of the people?
Yeah, so the pelvic floor actually is, for at least in Germany still, maybe it's a little bit different in Brazil because Brazilians move the pelvis quite differently than Germans would do, which is quite pleasurable to watch and be part of actually when I'm in your culture. But the pelvic floor for a lot of men and women is still a kind of a forbidden landscape. So I'm actually have been experiencing and also studying the pelvic floor before we already knew about fascia and fascial training and the importance and significance of collagenous tissues. And so when we did, and we learned so much about how to apply training and training procedure to the fascial tissues, it was actually just a question of time till when these two components and these two pathways actually would meet. And that actually happened like 3 years ago when we learned more about the fascial tissues of the pelvic floor. And we got really interested, like Robert and me, into how to possibly train this specific area.
It's amazing because we received you for 2 times, not twice as in Brazil, and the people really love, and of course we are expect you come back. I don't know via online or via presential. We need to know about COVID, but all of them really appreciate your course here, and most of part of them are used in their practical offices, and most part of the people are physiotherapists, but we have good people in the sports and the movement studios, no? So which is difference between the pelvic floor studies related to the rehabilitation and the pelvic floor directed to training fascia in the gym or in the studios in every day or some days a week?
So there's definitely a difference between that. So the rehabilitation and the clinical application speaks a lot into the realm of gynecologists and like pregnancy, birth, and afterbirth, as well as for men, for example, when they get older and they have prostate and also incontinence problems coming with that. So there's a huge area where that pelvic floor issues and the fascial tissues combined with that can have a benefit and a contribution to healing and to rehabilitation. So that's a huge topic, and I really, really love to get my nose a little bit more deeply into that, because I think it's such an essential part of ourselves as humans, men and women, to feel well and strong and have also our sexual power available. So that's an important part. Yet we know that also in athletes or also in the more somatic scene like yoga, Pilates, the powerhouse Mula Bandha, which that's what the yoga people say, has already a huge recognition in the importance in whether core stability or in the more energetical kind of the field. And I think the next and last part is the part of the athletes and the more powerful sports and sports training. And at least for the professional and the high performance athletes, we know that a lot of them suffer actually from pelvic floor problems, but nobody's talking about it because it's a kind of a taboo still. So I think, and that's an area we definitely need to somehow open an invitation, speak out an invitation and tell them, please We need to address that, and we need also to know how to load these tissues properly. And my assumption actually is that due to the very fact that there is so many collagenous tissues in the pelvic floor, these athletes might need to benefit quite a bit about knowing how to load fascial tissues, about regeneration times, rehydration times, and so on. So I'm really, really looking forward to somehow get this knowledge which we gathered for so many years and hopefully make it available to these groups as well.
Oh, interesting. Because, you know, after I did your pelvic floor class, and I used it to give some part of my training class, including karate class, a pelvic floor exercise to restore or try or now think of how breathing and move the pelvis and the legs could restore or reorganize the pelvis. And now I have a group with olders. We are 58. We are doing a research with this, and we are doing 1 day a week with just to work in the pelvic floor. And some part of them, just almost part of them, are related. There something are changing in your control pelvic floor. So it's interesting because it is one thing that we never speaks about this in our training. It's just like we don't need this. But I agree totally with you because this is more preconceptual ideas of our genital areas or how the pelvic floor could be related more breathing, legs, and health, because there are many hormones and relate with the deep inner primitive development now. So in the evolutionary, it is very, very important, you know. It's amazing.
And how exciting you're actually doing this. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious about the outcome. And as you addressed it, it's so well addressed to that we know now and have so much more understanding about the myofascial trains and the myofascial connections, which are into the back, which are into the abdominal network, which are actually into the lower limbs as well. And to definitely understand that this is due to the force transmission throughout the collagenous network, we can address and speak into the pelvic floor so differently and having so much more outcome in a certain sense, with not just really being too localized and too exclusive into the pelvic floor itself. Yeah, I think it's a very, very interesting and a very important topic. And I'm also really curious to hear how these wonderful people I work with, how they actually what they experienced and bring that back and evaluate that and actually get more knowledge all together with you and really bring that field a little bit more into the common sense and the common and collective mind.
Yes, yeah, of course, and that pelvic floor is really related with our some kind of our inner experience into because it is so it's a part of our organic and subjective experience at the same time. It's just wonderful. So Divo, we invite you to come back to Brazil as soon as possible. And people, we are preparing for you 2021, next year. Divo, you will be there, will be with us again. And we invite you to come with us to study with Divo and the aspect of pelvic floor and how this is related to the fascia, but how this is related to your health and your inner health too. No, thank you, Divo, for your how can I say your powerful to go in deeper and try to understand better how we human needs to how do we to has a health life, you know. So very interesting. Thank you very much.
And that's really well that you put it like that, because that makes me really somehow really happy to just feel it's such an essential part, and it's just being at the right spot at the right time, getting all this knowledge from fresher research, flying in and then making a contribution into the overall health of humankind. And I think it's a blessing to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And we'll see where this journey will bring us, and I hope it brings me back to you in person. So I'm really missing my friends in Brazil, in Argentina, and in South America. So far, still a very strong heart connection, but I would love to teach.